Welcome to Boutiques Connect Update with Currency Partners. Today I'm chatting to Sebastian Kingsley, FX Business Development Consultant, Currency Partners, Kirsten Krantz, Regional Sales, Western Cape, and Business Distribution Manager, Currency Partners. Welcome to you both.
Thank you.
You both have very long titles. That's quite impressive. Lovely to have Currency Partners back again. So Kirsten, my first question goes to you. You guys are at the cutting edge of the currency markets. You see flows into South Africa and flows out of South Africa. What are you seeing in the wealth management space in terms of those flows at the moment?
So it's been a really interesting financial year, bearing in mind we are midway through our financial year. So we haven't got formalized figures as of yet. But in terms of flows, what we really are seeing is, from a South African perspective, in terms of moving flows out of South Africa, a lot of individuals who have been making use of their annual allowances. We've seen a 25% increase in our tax clearance applications. So what that's really speaking to is individuals who are using their foreign investment allowance and their special approval allowances to take funds offshore. And then on the flip side of that, in terms of funds coming into South Africa, we're seeing a lot of non-residents who are actually bringing money into South Africa, which has been really encouraging, particularly in the property space. And then also, conversely to that, a lot of South Africans who have moved overseas, who aren't actually going through the formal tax immigration process. So they're leaving assets in South Africa, which is pretty interesting. And yeah, I think that's it really from an overall offshore flows perspective.
Talking about non-residents now, Kirsten, are we seeing, is it quite tough to bring money into the country? Is there a lot of red tape you have to go through?
Not necessarily as an individual. So if you're a non-resident individual who wants to buy property in South Africa, essentially from an exchange control perspective, there isn't much red tape. You just need to be able to prove the flow of funds. However, what we are seeing is non-residents who are setting up entity structures and purchasing property in the name of an entity or a company. And in that case, from an exchange control perspective, it can be a little bit stickier. We assist a lot of those clients with a SARB approval, and once they've got that approval, they're able to bring the funds into South Africa. But importantly, to note on that is, if an entity purchases property as a non-resident in South Africa and you have not got a SARB approval, when it comes to selling that or wanting to externalize the funds again, you actually aren't able to get the money out. So we assist with the SARB approval process so that when it comes to selling the property, they're able to move the funds and remit those funds offshore again. But the property space has been really interesting for us because it's grown massively. We're seeing a massive trend of non-residents who are obviously buying in popular areas like Nelspruit or Hoedspruit, St. Francis, the Garden Route, and then obviously popular areas of Cape Town like your Atlantic Seaboard and obviously the Winelands. But in terms of numbers, when it comes to the property space, it's tripled actually since 2019 if we're looking at the inflows. But the outflows has remained consistent. So we've gone from 10 billion to 30 billion since 2019.
Well, you're saying it's gone from 10 billion to 30 billion of inflows into the country from foreigners, and I guess just to take on that, is that Europeans?
Yes.
Is that mostly Germans? You hear about Germans loving
yes,
our property
absolutely.
market?
I mean,
Americans?
A lot of Europeans, and I was just about to say Americans as well. So it's really encouraging, and you know, from a sentiment point of view, when we're looking at South Africa, I mean, what has emerged is that there really is a positive sentiment and outlook towards South Africa. And it's no longer seasonal. I mean, previously we would have seen non-residents who have spent summer holiday here. We would have seen an uptick in the trends of property purchases, but now it's remaining consistent throughout the year, regardless of seasonality.
Well, I guess for foreigners as well, the property market here is still so unbelievably cheap
Yes.
relative to overseas property markets.
Absolutely.
And I'm utterly fascinated that Nelspruit was the first name you mentioned. I thought Clifton might have been the first one. In terms of the sort of money coming into the country, how does exchange rate volatility impact the flows that we're seeing, Sebastian?
So if we look at the numbers 22 to 23, the rand has averagely increased by about 2 rand to the US dollar.
Yeah.
Although the flows are actually remaining consistent at about 140 billion rand out. So even though your exchange rate is weakened per se, it's actually not having an effect on the funds going out. So I think the sentiment is really changing. Rather get the money offshore, let it perform there. You're investing for a long period of time, let the money perform and kind of just accept whatever exchange rate you're going to get. That's kind of the sentiment that we are seeing at the moment.
I know neither of you are dealers and you deal with the different parts of the business, but do the dealers say to you at the moment that, so genuinely there is no impact, they go, people want their money out the country and they're not trying to time the currency? Is that what you're seeing?
We are seeing that, and a lot of the time we're also seeing where people are deciding to hedge. So let's say you've got R1 million, we don't know what's going to happen, let's hedge it over 3 or 4 externalizations throughout the year. Try and do a bit of dollar cost averaging. So we are seeing quite a bit of that from my client base especially.
And I suppose just to add on to it, we don't have a crystal ball, so it is a guessing game. I mean, we can make predictions based on, certain economic factors that we expect in the market. But if we had to look at the South African elections, which is obviously quite prevalent in all of our lives, people weren't particularly sensitive around the exchange rate there. I think there was a lot of uncertainty in terms of what was going to transpire. So people who had funds to take offshore were taking funds offshore regardless of the exchange rate. And a lot of people took funds offshore prior to the elections when the rand actually weakened post-election, or strengthened, post-elections.
Yeah, but if I listen to both of you, it's quite interesting. We've got foreigners tripling their inflows in the country, and we've got locals continuing to take money out. Can it be interesting in 5 years' time to see who's right?
And to adding on to that, I mean, it's quite interesting. A lot of the foreigners that we speak to bringing funds in are actually saying we're their plan B, because obviously war in the Ukraine, Russia, in the Middle East, they're saying South Africa is a good position to be in. Weather's fantastic, good bang for your buck, good schooling. So we're seeing us actually being their plan B, where all of us previously wanted just to get out. So it's quite an interesting sentiment we're getting.
And I'm seeing an ad campaign here for foreigners talking about why South Africa is so great.
Yeah.
And to add on to that, I mean, South Africans coming back, we've also seen that as a huge trend. So yeah, I think we're super positive about what we're seeing at the moment because we get to see both sides of it. So.
And I guess from Currency Partners' perspective, you're facilitating trades into and out of South Africa.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
you're able to help on both sides.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.